My daughter-in-law, Claire, told the store manager, "That old woman is the nanny. Don't talk to her." My son Nathan let out a laugh so loud it echoed through the perfume aisle. I was just standing there, like a shadow, holding their shopping bags while they picked out a diamond necklace. The manager looked at me with that expression I know so well, pity mixed with discomfort, as if I were exactly what Claire had said, the housekeeper who carries the bags. They didn't say anything else. Why would they? In their minds, I was exactly that. The nanny who took care of Claire's children from her first marriage, who then stayed on as the housekeeper when she married Nathan. An old, humble woman, living in their house out of charity, who should be grateful just to have a roof over her head. But there's something they don't know, something I've kept secret for years while I watch them enjoy luxuries they believe are the result of Nathan's business success. I am Rose Anderson. I am 70 years old, and I am the owner of this store. I also own the other 12 stores in the chain. I own a business empire that I built in secret, using a different company name, while they believed I was just a housekeeper. The story began 15 years ago, when Claire was widowed and needed someone to care for her 2 young children. I had just lost my own husband and was looking for something to give my life meaning. I was 55 years old, with some savings and a broken heart that needed to heal by caring for others. Claire hired me as a nanny. Her children, Dylan and Hannah, became the grandchildren of my heart. I raised them, loved them, protected them as if they were my own. While Claire worked at her law firm, I stayed home, playing with them, helping them with homework, preparing their favorite meals. But during the long hours when the children were at school, I started to invest my savings. First, it was small businesses. A clothing store downtown, then another in the mall. I used the business name Galloway Enterprises to keep it separate from my identity as a housekeeper. No one suspected that the humble nanny living in the service quarters was building a business empire. When Claire met Nathan, I already had 6 successful stores, but to them, I was still just the housekeeper who, for some reason, had enough money to support herself without drawing a salary. They never asked where my money came from. They assumed I had a small pension or some savings from my late husband. Nathan fell head over heels for Claire. She was beautiful, smart, successful. She had everything he thought he needed in a wife. And I, who had raised him as a single mother after being widowed early, saw this relationship as a chance for my son to finally be happy. When they got married, Claire asked me to stay. "The children adore you, Rose, and you're already part of the family." Nathan nodded, smiling. "Of course, Mom. This is your home too." But from the first day, my position in this new family structure was clear. Claire decorated the house to her taste, changed furniture, painted walls, installed new floors. I lived in the service house, which had been renovated just for me. "It's your private space," Claire would tell me, "your own home within our home." It sounded nice, but the reality was that I had been pushed aside to the place where the housekeeper belongs. During the first few years, Nathan worked at a small company. His income was modest, but Claire had a successful career as a lawyer. Together they could maintain a comfortable, but not luxurious, standard of living. That's when I decided to help them without their knowledge. I started depositing money into their bank accounts, small amounts at first, like bonuses from Nathan's job or successful cases for Claire. They didn't ask many questions. They were busy with their careers, with the children, with building their new life together. The extra money was welcome, but not questioned. As my businesses grew, my gifts grew too. I paid for the house expansion, the new cars, the family vacations, always through third parties, always with believable explanations. Nathan believed he had received an unexpected inheritance from a distant uncle. Claire thought she had won a major lawsuit that gave her a considerable bonus. But while I showered them with gifts, my position in the family slowly deteriorated. The children were growing up and didn't need a nanny as much. Claire began to see me more as a housekeeper than as a family member. Nathan, lost in enjoying his new prosperity, didn't notice how his wife treated me with growing contempt. Now, 15 years later, I am invisible to them. I am the housekeeper who cleans, cooks, carries the bags when they go shopping. I am the old woman who lives in the service house and who should be grateful to have a place to live. They don't know that every purchase they make, every luxury they enjoy, every comfort they have is paid for with my money. Today, when Claire humiliated me in the store, it didn't just hurt me as a woman. It hurt me as the owner of that place, as the person who pays that manager's salary, as the businesswoman who built every detail of that commercial space. But most of all, it hurt me as the mother who has watched her son become a stranger, one who allows his wife to treat his own mother as if she were less than nothing. Tonight, while they eat dinner in the main dining room, I eat alone in my small kitchen. I look out the window towards the main house, towards the warm lights, towards the family I thought was mine, and I wonder how much longer I can keep this secret, how much longer I can stand being invisible in my own life. Tomorrow I will wake up at 5:30 because, as always, I will prepare breakfast, clean the house, carry the bags if they decide to go shopping. But something has changed today, something deep and final. I am no longer the same woman who accepts everything in silence. It's time for them to know who I really am. I wake up at 5:30, just like every day for the past 15 years. But this morning is different. This morning, as I prepare the coffee that Nathan will drink without saying good morning to me, I remember exactly how I got here. I remember the woman I was before I became the shadow I am now. I have a photograph tucked away in my nightstand drawer. It's from 20 years ago. When Nathan was 25 and had just graduated from college, it's the two of us, hugging, smiling in front of the house I had just bought for us. A modest but beautiful house, with a small garden where he used to play as a child. In that photo, my eyes shine with pride. I was a single mother who had managed to give her son a college education, a promising future, all the love in the world. My husband died when Nathan was 8. A car accident on a rainy morning, returning from a night job he had taken to pay the extra bills for our son's private school. From one day to the next, I became both father and mother, the sole provider for the family, the only one responsible for making my son's dreams come true. I worked in a textile factory during the day and cleaned offices at night. Nathan would stay with my sister Helen until I arrived, always after midnight, always exhausted, but always with enough money to keep him in the best school, to buy him the books he needed, to give him the opportunities I never had. On weekends, when he went out with his friends, I would use the time to sew clothes that I sold at the market, blouses, dresses, school uniforms, my hands filled with scars from the needles. My eyes grew tired from working under the dim light of my table lamp, but every dollar I earned was $1 closer to Nathan's college, $1 closer to his future. He never complained. He never asked me why I worked so much, why I wasn't home when he got back from school, why I always seemed tired. I think he understood, in his own childish way, that the sacrifices I made were for him, or at least that's what I thought then. Now I wonder if he just got used to me being invisible, to my presence being only functional, only necessary to maintain his comfort. When he graduated from college, I cried with happiness. He was the first professional in our family. He had a degree in business administration, a bright future ahead of him, all doors open. That night, we ate at the most expensive restaurant in the city. I wore the only elegant dress I owned, saved for special occasions that rarely came. He took my hand across the table and told me, "Thanks, Mom. Everything I am, I owe to you." Those were the most beautiful words I had ever heard in my life. In that moment, I felt that all the sacrifices had been worth it. All the sleepless nights, all the meals I skipped so he could eat better, all the tears shed in silence so he wouldn't see me suffer. Everything made sense if my son was happy, if my son had managed to become more than I could ever be. But life has cruel ways of teaching us that words are carried away by the wind. that the gratitude of children sometimes lasts only as long as their youth, and that when a woman appears and captures their heart, a mother can become an inconvenient memory of the past. Nathan met Claire 5 years after graduating. By then, I had sold the modest house where we lived and had bought a larger one in a better neighborhood. I had invested my savings in small businesses that were starting to generate good income. I no longer worked in the factory or cleaned offices. I was a small business owner, a woman who had learned to grow money with intelligence and patience. The first time Nathan told me about Claire, his eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen since he was a child, telling me about his dreams. "She's perfect, Mom," he told me. "She's smart, beautiful, successful. She has 2 children from her first marriage, but I don't care. I'm going to love them as if they were my own." Claire was a widow. Her first husband had died in an accident, leaving her with 2 small children and a law career that was just beginning. When I met her, I immediately understood why Nathan had fallen in love with her. She was elegant, sophisticated. She had that confidence that only comes from a good education and a stable social position. Everything I could never be, everything I could never give my son. The first few months were beautiful. Claire treated me with respect, almost with affection. She asked me about Nathan's childhood, about our family traditions, about the foods he liked. She seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me, in including me in her new family life. The children, Dylan and Hannah, welcomed me with the innocent curiosity of children who have lost a parent and are looking for figures to fill that void. It was Claire who suggested I move in with them after the wedding. "The children adore you," she told me, "and I need someone I trust to take care of them when Nathan and I are working." "It would be perfect if you lived with us." Nathan nodded enthusiastically. "Of course, Mom. That way we could spend more time together. And you could help with the children. You'd be like a grandmother to them." A grandmother. The word sounded beautiful at that moment. Who had given up on the possibility of having biological grandchildren when Nathan focused so much on his career that he seemed to have forgotten about marriage and family, suddenly had the opportunity to be a grandmother to 2 children who needed love and care. I sold my house without hesitation. It was a good house, in a good neighborhood, which had taken me years of work to get. But the idea of living close to my son, of being part of a big, happy family, of having grandchildren to care for and love, was worth more than any property. With the money from the sale, I bought stocks, invested in more businesses, expanded my small commercial empire that was growing silently while I prepared for my new life as a grandmother. The first 2 years were perfect. Dylan and Hannah waited for me every afternoon with open arms. I helped them with homework, played with them, told them stories before bed. Claire worked long hours at her firm, and Nathan focused on growing his career. I was the constant presence, the emotional stability that kept the family together. But slowly, I began to notice changes. Claire would come home and, instead of asking me how the children had been, she would review everything we had done during the day. She criticized small decisions. Why had I served this meal and not another? Why had I allowed the children to watch a certain program? Why hadn't I insisted more that they do their homework before playing? At first, I thought it was work stress. Being a single mother and a lawyer wasn't easy, and now she also had a new relationship to maintain. But the criticisms became more frequent, more specific, more hurtful, and worst of all, Nathan never defended me. He would listen in silence, nod, and later ask me to try to understand Claire's position, understand what that after raising my son with so much sacrifice, after selling my house to live near him, after loving his stepchildren as if they were my own grandchildren, I now had to accept being treated like an employee who could be criticized and corrected for any decision I made. This morning, as I prepare the breakfast that they will eat without thanking me, I remember each of those moments. I remember the strong woman I was, the woman who built a future for her son with her own hands, And I wonder when I allowed that woman to disappear, when I accepted becoming the shadow I am now. This morning, after breakfast. Claire approaches me with that smile I've learned to recognize. It's the smile she uses when she wants something, when she's about to ask me a favor that is really a disguised order. She sits at the small table in my kitchen, crosses her legs elegantly, and looks at me with those eyes that seem affectionate, but hide something else. "Rose," she says in a soft voice, "Nathan and I have been talking a lot lately. About you. About your future. About what's best for everyone." She pauses, takes a sip of the coffee I just served her, and continues. "We think you've reached an age where you deserve to rest, to enjoy life without the worries of maintaining a house." I feel a strange coldness in my stomach. There's something in her tone, in the way she avoids looking me directly in the eyes. That puts me on alert. "What are you talking about, Claire?" I ask, although a part of me already suspects where this conversation is going. "We've found a perfect place for you," she says, and her smile widens, becomes more fake. "It's a luxury residence for seniors, Sunshine Meadows, it's called. It's on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by beautiful gardens, with all the amenities a woman your age could need. They have 24-hour nurses, recreational activities, gourmet meals. It's like a 5-star hotel, but designed especially for people like you. People like me." The phrase echoes in my head like a slap. People like me, old women who are in the way, mothers who have served their purpose and must now be quietly moved aside so their children can live their lives without inconvenience. "I don't understand," I say, even though I understand perfectly. "Why would we consider that I'm fine here? The children need me. You need me." Claire leans forward, places her hand on mine in a gesture that's meant to be motherly, but feels condescending. "Rose, dear, the children are no longer children. Dylan is 16. Hannah is 14. They don't need a nanny anymore. And us, well, we need our space as a couple. We've been married for 5 years, and we've never had real privacy in our own home." There it is. The truth disguised as concern for my well-being. I'm not a respected mother. I'm not a beloved grandmother. I am an obstacle to the privacy of their marriage. I am an old piece of furniture, taking up unnecessary space in their perfect house. "Besides," Claire continues, and now her voice takes on a firmer, more decisive tone, "at your age, living alone in the service house isn't safe. What if you fall and no one hears you? What if you have a medical emergency in the middle of the night at Sunshine Meadows? You'd have immediate assistance, company of people your age, activities that would keep you active and happy." Every word is like a stone falling on my chest. She's painting me a beautiful picture of my future, but I see the reality behind the bright colors. She's telling me I'm a burden, that I'm a risk, that I'm a problem that needs to be solved in the most elegant way possible. "And what does Nathan think about this?" I ask, clinging to the hope that my son, the boy I raised with so much love, has a different perspective, as if he had been waiting for the question. Nathan appears in this kitchen doorway. He's wearing his work suit, his tie perfectly knotted, his hair combed back the way Claire likes it. But there's something in his expression I can't quite decipher. Guilt, discomfort, or just the annoyance of having to deal with an uncomfortable conversation. "Mom," he says. And the fact that he calls me Mom instead of Rose gives me a moment of hope. Claire is right. We've done a lot of research on Sunshine Meadows. It really is an incredible place. They have a movie theater, a library, yoga classes, even a spa. You could make friends, have an active social life. Here, in the service house, you're very isolated. Isolated, as if the isolation had been my choice and not the result of 5 years of being gradually pushed to the margins of their family life. "But you are my family," I tell them, and I hate how pleading my voice sounds. The children are like my grandchildren. This house has been my home for 5 years. I don't understand why I have to go to a place full of strangers." Claire exchanges a quick glance with Nathan. It's one of those looks that speak a secret language between couples, a silent communication that excludes everyone else. Then, Claire smiles again, but this time the smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Rose, we're not talking about kicking you out. We're talking about giving you an opportunity to live better. And it's not like you won't see the children. You can visit us on weekends, and we can come see you. Sunshine Meadows has rooms for family visits. It will be like having the best of both worlds. Visit them on weekends, as if I were a distant aunt, as if I were a family acquaintance, as if I weren't the woman who raised Nathan since he was a child, who cared for Dylan and Hannah as if they were my own grandchildren, who has lived for this family for the last 15 years. And besides," Nathan adds, "economically, it makes a lot of sense. The cost of Sunshine Meadows is completely covered by my work insurance. You won't have to worry about a thing. Everything is paid for." A lie. I know it's a lie because I know exactly how much Nathan earns. I know his work benefits because I've been secretly supplementing them for years. His insurance doesn't cover luxury residences, but if they believe it's covered, it means someone else is paying, and I have a terrible suspicion about who that someone might be. "When would I have to move?" I ask, although every word hurts as I say it. "Well," says Claire, and now her enthusiasm seems genuine, "we've already made the preliminary arrangements. You could move in next month. That would give us time to prepare everything, for you to visit the place, for you to get comfortable with the idea." They already made the arrangements, without consulting me, without asking me what I wanted, without considering for a moment that I might have an opinion about my own future. They decided it was time to get rid of me and proceeded to organize my exile in the most efficient way possible. I sit in my small kitchen, looking at my son and his wife, and I feel as if I'm looking at two strangers. When did Nathan become this man who can plan his mother's life without including her in the conversation? When did he become so much like Claire, so cold, so calculating? I need to think about it. I tell them finally. Claire nods, but I can see the impatience in her eyes. She doesn't want me to think about it. She wants me to accept, to be grateful, to leave quietly and without making trouble. "Of course, Rose, take all the time you need. But remember, this is what's best for everyone, including you." After they leave, I stay alone in the kitchen, looking out the window at the garden I once thought would witness my happy old age surrounded by family. The silence of the house is different now. It's not the silence of loneliness. It's the silence of betrayal. I take out my phone and dial a number I haven't dialed in months. David Thompson, my lawyer and old friend, answers on the second ring. "Rose," he says with genuine surprise. "What a pleasure to hear from you. How are you?" "David," I say, and my voice trembles slightly. "I need to see you, urgently. I think someone is trying to steal my money." That night I can't sleep. I stay awake in my small bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word of the conversation with Claire and Nathan. Sunshine Meadows, a luxury residence, everything paid for by my son's work insurance. Every detail sounds perfect, too perfect, and that perfection scares me. At 3 a.m, I turn on my nightstand lamp and take out a small metal box that I keep in the deepest drawer. Inside are all the important documents of my life, my will, the deeds to my properties, my business papers, the bank accounts, everything I've built over years of silent work. I review each document carefully. My stores are still registered in my name, under the business name Galloway Enterprises. My bank accounts are intact. My will, drafted 5 years ago, leaves everything to Nathan as the sole heir. At the time, I thought it was the right thing to do. He was my only son, the man I had raised with so much sacrifice. Who else would I leave my fortune to? But this morning, looking at those papers in the dim light of my lamp, I wonder if I didn't make a terrible mistake. What will happen to my money when I'm institutionalized in Sunshine Meadows? Who will manage my businesses? Who will make decisions about my properties? The next day, I pretend everything is normal. I prepare breakfast, clean the house, do the laundry. But every move I make is calculated. I watch Claire and Nathan with new eyes, looking for signs I had missed before. Claire is more cheerful than usual. She sings while getting ready for work, smiles when she greets me, even asks me how I slept. Her behavior is so different from yesterday that it's unsettling. It's as if a weight has been lifted from her shoulders, as if the problem of what to do with me is already solved. Nathan, on the other hand, avoids looking at me directly. He eats his breakfast in silence, checks his phone obsessively, leaves earlier than usual. When I ask him if he wants me to prepare something special for dinner, he barely mutters, "Whatever you want, Mom," without looking up. After they leave, I start my own investigation. I dial the number for Sunshine Meadows that Claire had given me. A sweet, professional voice answers. "Good morning, Sunshine Meadows, luxury residence for seniors. How may I help you?" "Good morning," I say, trying to sound casual. "My family is considering your residence for me. I was wondering about the costs and payment methods." "Of course, ma'am. Our rates vary depending on the type of room and the additional services required. Could you tell me what level of care you are looking for?" "The highest level," I reply. "Private room, all amenities." "Perfect. Our premium package costs $8,000 a month, plus additional expenses for medications and specialized therapies. We require payment for the first 6 months in advance, and then it's billed monthly. $8,000 a month, $48,000 in advance. Nathan's annual salary isn't even enough to cover 6 months at that residence, and his work insurance definitely doesn't cover that type of expense. Is someone else planning to pay that bill? Someone who has access to a lot of money. Do you accept payments from third parties?" I ask, although my heart already knows the answer. "Yes, Ma, of course." Many families manage payments through powers of attorney or family trusts. As long as we have the appropriate legal documentation, there's no problem. Powers of attorney, family trusts. The words ring in my head like alarm bells. I hang up the phone with trembling hands and sit on my small sofa, trying to process what I've just discovered. They're not trying to take care of me. They're trying to control me. Once I'm in Sunshine Meadows, they'll need power of attorney to manage my finances and make decisions for me. And once they have that power, once I'm isolated in a residence where visits are controlled and supervised, I'll be completely vulnerable. During lunch, Dylan and Hannah arrive from school. They're good kids, despite everything. They greet me affectionately, tell me about their classes, ask me to make them their favorite snack. As I serve them sandwiches and juice, I wonder if they know anything about their mother's plans, Grandma Rose. Hannah says to me, using the name she's called me for years, "Mom says you're going to move to a very pretty place." My heart stops. "What else did your mom tell you?" "That you'll be more comfortable there, that you'll have friends your age, but I don't want you to go." "Who's going to help me with math? Who's going to make me sandwiches like these?" Dylan, who is older and more perceptive, looks at me with a strange expression. "Mom also said that after you move, she's going to need help managing some things. Important papers. She said that since you're older, it's better for someone younger to take care of those responsibilities." There it is, the confirmation of my worst suspicions. Claire doesn't just want to get rid of me. She wants to take control of my money. And she's using the children to normalize the idea, so that when the time comes, they'll naturally accept that their mother is helping Grandma Rose with her financial affairs that afternoon. While Claire is at work and Nathan is in a meeting, I discreetly search the main house. I'm not looking for anything specific, just signs that something isn't right. In Claire's study, I find documents scattered on the desk. Most are legal cases, but there's one folder that catches my attention. Inside the folder are brochures for Sunshine Meadows, but not just promotional brochures. There are preliminary contracts, admission forms, legal documents that talk about transferring financial responsibilities. And at the bottom, there's something that makes me tremble. A draft of a broad power of attorney that would give Claire total control over my finances and medical decisions. The document is dated from last week, a week before they even spoke to me about Sunshine Meadows. They had planned everything in advance. They had consulted lawyers. They had prepared the legal papers. All that was missing was convincing me to sign. I photograph every document with my phone, being careful to leave everything exactly as I found it. My hands are shaking as I take the photos, but my mind is becoming clearer. I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. They are really trying to rob me. When Claire gets home from work, she finds me preparing dinner as if nothing has happened. She smiles at me, asks about my day, even helps me set the table. Her behavior is so normal, so affectionate, that for a moment I doubt what I've discovered. "Rose," she says while we eat dinner, "I've been thinking about Sunshine Meadows. What if we go visit it tomorrow, just so you can see how beautiful it is, so you can get familiar with the place?" "That sounds fine," I reply, keeping my voice calm. "But first, I'd like to talk to my lawyer, just to better understand the legal aspects of the move." Claire's smile freezes for a second, just a second, but long enough for me to notice. "Your lawyer, I didn't know you had a lawyer." "David Thompson," I say, watching her reaction. "He's an old friend. He helps me with little things now and then." Nathan looks up from his plate. "What do you need a lawyer for?" "Mom Claire is a lawyer. She can help you with anything you need." "I know," I say softly, "but I'd prefer to get a second opinion, just to be sure I'm making the right decision." Claire nods, but I can see the tension in her jaw. "Of course, Rose. It's your right to consult with whomever you want. Let's just hope he's not too slow. Sunshine Meadows has a waiting list, and we don't want to lose the opportunity. Waiting list, time pressure, artificial urgency, all the classic manipulation tactics. But now that I recognize them, they no longer have power over me. That night, I send a text message to David Thompson. "Tomorrow at 10, your office. It's urgent. I think they're trying to scam me." Tomorrow, I will start to regain control of my life. Tomorrow, I will start to become the strong woman I used to be again. But for tonight, I sleep with the small box of documents under my pillow, protecting the only thing I have left, the truth about who I really am. David Thompson's office is downtown, in an old but elegant building that has always given me confidence. David and I have known each other for over 20 years. He was a young lawyer when I started investing my first savings, and has been a silent witness to how I built my business empire step by step. When I enter his office, David immediately stands up from his desk. He's a man in his 60s, gray hair, intelligent eyes that have seen many legal battles. He hugs me with the affection of an old friend, but I can see the worry on his face. "Rose," he says, motioning to the chair in front of his desk. "Your message worried me all night. Tell me what's going on." I explain everything. The conversation about Sunshine Meadows, the documents I found in Claire's study, the lies about Nathan's insurance, the real costs of the residence. David listens in silence, taking occasional notes, but I can see his expression growing more and more serious. When I finish my story, David remains quiet for a long moment. Then he gets up, walks to the window, and stares out at the city with his hands in his pockets. "Rose," he says finally, without turning to look at me. "There's something you need to know. Something I've been trying to figure out for the past few weeks." My heart speeds up. "What are you talking about?" David returns to his desk and pulls out a thick folder. He opens it and spreads several documents in front of me. "Do you remember 3 months ago you asked me to review the account statements for your businesses? You said it seemed like the numbers didn't add up." I remember perfectly. The income from my stores had dropped inexplicably. But when I asked the managers, they all assured me that sales were normal. Yes, but you told me everything was in order. I lied, David says, and his confession hits me like a punch. Everything was not in order. But I needed time to investigate more thoroughly, to be completely sure before making such serious accusations. He points to one of the documents. Someone has been diverting money from your business accounts. Small amounts at first, but gradually larger. In the last 6 months, they've stolen almost $200,000. The room starts to spin. I grip the edge of the desk to keep my balance. Who? How? David points to another document. The transfers were made from a computer with authorized access to your accounts, someone who knows your passwords, someone who has physical access to your personal documents. You don't need to say any more. Only 3 people in the world have access to my financial information: David, myself, and the person I gave access to 2 years ago, when I had minor surgery and needed someone to manage my accounts temporarily. Claire, I whisper. David nods gravely. Claire Anderson. As a lawyer, she has the legal knowledge to make the transfers look like legitimate transactions. And as your daughter-in-law, she has access to your house, your documents, your personal information. I take out my phone and show him the photos I took yesterday of the documents in her study. David examines them carefully, and with every image he sees, his expression becomes darker. Rose, he says, after reviewing all the photos. This is worse than I thought. They're not just stealing money from you. They're planning to take legal control of all your finances. He explains the documents I photographed. The power of attorney they had prepared wasn't just to manage your accounts while you were at Sunshine Meadows. It was a broad and irrevocable power of attorney that would give Claire total control over all your assets, your properties, your businesses. Once you sign this, David says, pointing to the document, Claire could sell your stores, liquidate your accounts, dispose of your properties as she pleases. Legally, you couldn't do anything to stop her. But I would never sign something like that, I protest. David looks at me with an expression mixing compassion and concern. Rose, Sunshine Meadows isn't just a luxury residence. It's a medical institution. Once you're there, if Claire presents medical documents indicating that you don't have the mental capacity to make financial decisions, a judge could validate the power of attorney without your consent. The room feels smaller and smaller. You're saying they plan to declare me mentally incompetent. It's a real possibility. Claire knows the legal system. She knows exactly how to manipulate it. And once you're isolated in Sunshine Meadows, without independent witnesses, without free access to outside communication, it would be easy to create a medical file that supports that declaration. David opens another folder and takes out more documents. I've been investigating Claire Anderson for the past few weeks. Her law firm is in financial trouble. She lost several important cases last year. She has considerable debts. And there's something else. He shows me an official document. This is the file from her first marriage. Her first husband didn't die in an accident, as she claims. He died after being in a residence for Alzheimer's patients for a year, and during that year, Claire had full power of attorney over his finances. The air escapes from my lungs. Are you implying what? I'm not implying anything, David says firmly. But the pattern is clear. Claire has experience managing the assets of incapacitated relatives. And now she's in a desperate financial situation. I get up from the chair and walk to the window, trying to process all this information. My son, the man I raised with so much love, is married to a woman who has done this before, a woman who is planning to steal everything I've built over years of work. Do you think Nathan knows? I ask, though I'm afraid of the answer. David sighs deeply. I don't know. Rose, but I've reviewed his financial movements too. In the last 6 months, he's been spending much more money than he earns. New cars, expensive vacations, luxury clothes. Someone is financing that lifestyle. Someone. Me. My own money. Stolen and used to buy my son's happiness while they plan to get rid of me. What can I do? I ask, feeling as if I'm on the edge of a cliff. David returns to his desk and pulls out a small recorder. First, we need evidence. This conversation we've had is useful, but we need them to admit their intentions. We need them to talk about the power of attorney, about Sunshine Meadows, about the plans they have for your money. He hands me the recorder. It's very small, easy to hide. Provoke them to talk about the details of their plan. The more specific they are, the better evidence we'll have. And then, David says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, we give them a surprise they'll never forget. But first, we need to change your will, immediately. We spend the next 2 hours drafting a new will. This time, Nathan is not the sole heir. This time, there are specific conditions, protection clauses, and alternate beneficiaries in case my son is involved in any attempt at fraud against me. When I leave David's office, I'm no longer the same woman who walked in this morning. I'm no longer the helpless victim who accepted everything in silence. I am Rose Anderson, owner of a business empire. A woman who built her fortune with intelligence and determination. And now it's time to remind everyone exactly who I am. Tonight, during dinner, I'll ask the right questions. Tonight, with the recorder hidden in my blouse, I'll give them the opportunity to confess their plans. And then, when I have all the evidence I need, it will be my turn to surprise them. I walk to the car David lent me to get home, and for the first time in years, I feel something I had forgotten. Power. The power of the woman I once was. The woman I should never have stopped being. It's time for Claire and Nathan to meet the real Rose Anderson. I return home with the recorder in my pocket and a plan in my mind. I'm no longer the confused woman who left this morning. I am the businesswoman who built an empire from scratch, the mother who sacrificed everything for her son, the woman who has been underestimated for far too long. It's time to take back my power. First, I need to act as if nothing has changed. I prepare dinner as always. Roast chicken with vegetables, Nathan's favorite dish since he was a child. I set the table with the good tablecloths. I light the candles Claire bought on her last trip. Everything must seem normal, familiar, comfortable. I want them to feel safe when we start talking. While I cook, I mentally review the questions I need to ask. David advised me to be subtle at first, to let them steer the conversation towards Sunshine Meadows, towards the financial aspects. The recorder is activated, hidden in the inner pocket of my blouse, where the microphone can clearly pick up everything said at the table. Claire arrives first, as always. She's coming from her office, wearing her hair up and a gray suit that makes her look powerful, professional. She greets me with a smile that I now know is completely fake, but I return the gesture as if nothing has changed. "Smells delicious. Rose," she says, looking towards the stove. "Roast chicken. Nathan is going to be very happy. It's his favorite," I reply, keeping my voice warm. I thought a special dinner would be perfect for talking about Sunshine Meadows in more detail. Claire's eyes light up. "Perfect. In fact, I spoke with the director of the residence today. They are very excited to meet you tomorrow." Nathan arrives a few minutes later. He looks tired, but his face relaxes when he smells the food. He hugs me briefly, an automatic gesture that used to mean love, but now feels mechanical, empty. "Mom," he says, "Claire told me you're visiting Sunshine Meadows tomorrow. I'm glad you've decided to give it a chance." During dinner, I let them guide the conversation. Claire talks enthusiastically about the residence's facilities, about the activities I could do, about how independent I would feel. Nathan nods. He adds occasional comments about how positive it will be for my social and mental health. "There's something I'd like to understand better," I say finally, when I feel the time is right. The practical aspects of the move. For example, how are we going to handle my bank accounts, my small savings? Claire exchanges a quick look with Nathan. "Well, Rose, that's exactly the kind of thing you won't have to worry about anymore. I can take care of all those details for you." "You take care of my accounts?" I ask, trying to sound genuinely grateful. That's very generous of you. Not at all, says Claire, leaning forward enthusiastically. I'm a lawyer. I handle this kind of thing all the time. We could set up a simple power of attorney that allows me to manage your finances while you're at Sunshine Meadows. It would be much easier for you. There it is, the confession I needed. A power of attorney that means you would make all the decisions about my money. Just the practical decisions, Nathan says quickly. Paying the bills for Sunshine Meadows, handling any medical expenses, that sort of thing. You would still be the owner of everything. Of course. Of course. The lie rolls off his lips so easily that I wonder how many times they've rehearsed this conversation. And my small businesses, I ask, feigning innocence. What would happen to them? Claire settles into her chair. Businesses, I didn't know you had businesses. Rose. Small investments, I say modestly. Nothing important. Some stocks, a small property here and there, things I bought with my savings over the years. I can see the curiosity in Claire's eyes. She's calculating, trying to determine exactly how much money might be involved. Well, those things could also be managed through the power of attorney. In fact, it would be the smartest thing to do. At Sunshine Meadows, you're not going to have the time or energy to worry about investments. And if I wanted to sell one of those properties, I ask. I could handle it, Claire says immediately. I know the real estate market. I have excellent contacts. I could probably get you better prices than you'd get on your own. Nathan nods enthusiastically. Claire's right, Mom. She manages much larger investments than yours. You'd be in very good hands. Very good hands. My own hands built everything they planned to steal, but apparently those hands are no longer good enough to manage my own fortune. And this power of attorney, I ask, when would we need to sign it? Ideally before you move, says Claire. Sunshine Meadows requires all financial aspects to be clear from the beginning. They don't like dealing with bureaucratic complications. In fact, Nathan adds, Claire already prepared some preliminary documents, just to speed up the process. Claire gives him a warning look, as if he'd said too much. But it's too late. They've confirmed exactly what David suspected. You already prepared the documents, I ask, feigning surprise. How efficient of you, just drafts, Claire says quickly. To get an idea of what we'd need, we could review them after you visit Sunshine Meadows tomorrow. That sounds perfect, I say with a smile. Could you show me those drafts tonight? I'd like to understand exactly what kind of responsibilities you'd be taking on. Claire hesitates for a moment. Of course, after dinner, we can review them together. The rest of the dinner passes in a strangely friendly atmosphere. Claire and Nathan are relaxed, confident. They believe I've completely accepted their plan, that I'm the naive old woman who will sign any document they put in front of me. After washing the dishes, we head to Claire's study. She takes out the same folder I had photographed the day before. But this time, she shows me the documents openly. This is the basic power of attorney, she says, pointing to the first document. It would give me authority to manage all your bank accounts, your investments, your properties. All of them, I ask, reading carefully. Yes, it's simpler that way. A broad power of attorney avoids legal complications. I read every line of the document, pretending I need time to understand the legal language. In reality, I understand perfectly what it says. It's exactly what David had explained to me, an irrevocable power of attorney that would give Claire total control over every dollar I own. And this other document, I ask, pointing to a medical form. That's just a precaution, says Nathan. In case you have any health problems in the future, Claire could make medical decisions for you. Medical decisions, including, presumably, decisions about my mental capacity. When would you need me to sign these documents? I ask. Well, says Claire, if we decide to proceed with Sunshine Meadows after your visit tomorrow, we could sign them the day after tomorrow. That way, we'd have everything ready for your move next week. Next week. Not next month, as they had originally told me. They're in a hurry to get rid of me, in a hurry to take control of my money. That seems reasonable, I say finally. Tomorrow, After visiting Sunshine Meadows, I'll make my final decision. Claire smiles. A genuine smile for the first time in days. She thinks she's won. She thinks that tomorrow night, she'll have my signature on those documents and full access to my fortune. That night, in the privacy of my room, I download the recording of the conversation and send it to David via encrypted email. Then I make several important calls. First, I call each of my store managers. I give them specific instructions. Starting tomorrow, all major financial decisions must be approved directly by me, in person, with official identification. Any unauthorized access attempts must be reported immediately to David Thompson. Then I call my bank. I change all my passwords. I set up new security measures. It requires dual authorization for any transfer over $1,000. Finally, I call a private investigator David had recommended. I need photographic documentation of my visit to Sunshine Meadows tomorrow. Evidence that I am mentally competent and making decisions freely. When I finish making all the calls, it's almost 2 a.m, but for the first time in years, I feel completely awake, completely alive. Tomorrow, the counterattack begins. Tomorrow. Claire and Nathan will discover they've been messing with the wrong woman. I stay awake for the rest of the night, not out of anxiety, but anticipation, after years of being treated like a shadow. I'm finally going to shine with all my light, and that light is going to blind those who tried to put it out. The visit to Sunshine Meadows is exactly as I expected. A beautiful, elegant place, designed to make families feel good about institutionalizing their elderly relatives. Claire and I tour the gardens, the rooms, the movie theater. She talks animatedly with the director about the services, the costs, the admission procedures. I act like the charmed old woman who is seriously considering moving there. But as I walk through those perfect hallways, with thick carpets that silence footsteps and security cameras in every corner, I understand exactly what this place would represent for me. A gilded cage, where Claire could visit me occasionally to keep up appearances, while managing my fortune from the comfort of my own home. On the way back, Claire is euphoric. Didn't it seem perfect? Rose, the facilities are first class. The staff is very professional. I think you'd be very happy there. Yes, I say softly. It's a very definitive place. That night, during dinner, I announce my decision. I've been thinking a lot about Sunshine Meadows, I say, as Claire and Nathan watch me expectantly. I think you're right. It's time for me to make this change in my life. Claire almost chokes on her wine from excitement. Rose, that's wonderful. Are you sure? Completely sure, I reply. And I'd like to sign those legal documents tomorrow. Like we discussed, to get everything ready as soon as possible. Nathan takes my hand across the table. Mom, I'm so glad you've made this decision. I know it's going to be the best thing for you. The best thing for me? The words sound hollow coming from his mouth, but I nod with a maternal smile. I just want to be sure that you'll be able to handle all the financial responsibilities without any problems. Don't you worry about that, says Claire. I've handled much more complicated cases than this. After dinner, I retire early to my room. It's the last night I'll sleep in this house as the invisible woman I've been for 5 years. Tomorrow, everything will change. At 8 o'clock the next morning, Claire knocks on my door. She's holding a folder of documents and a radiant smile. Ready to make all this official? Rose. Ready, I say. We sit at my small kitchen table. Claire spreads the documents out in front of me, explaining each one with the condescending patience of someone speaking to a person who doesn't fully understand what they're signing. This is the power of attorney we discussed, she says, pointing to the first document. And this is the medical form. I just need your signature on these marked lines. I take the pen she offers me. I hold it over the first document for a moment, as if carefully considering what I'm about to do. Then, I look up and meet her eyes directly. Claire, I say softly, before I sign, I'd like to ask you a question. Of course. How much money do you think you're about to steal from me? The color drains from her face. The pen falls from my hands. I'm sorry. I'm asking. I say, keeping my voice calm. How much money did you calculate you could get from my small savings once you had power of attorney over my finances? Claire stands up abruptly from the chair. Rose, I don't understand what you're talking about. At that moment, Nathan appears in the kitchen doorway. He had obviously been waiting to hear the good news. Did Mom sign the... He stops when he sees the expression on Claire's face. Sit down, Nathan, I tell him. There are a few things we need to clear up. I get up and walk to the drawer where I keep my important documents. I take out the folder I prepared last night and place it on the table. First, I say, opening the folder, I'd like to show you this. It's a copy of the statement for one of my main bank accounts. Claire takes the document with trembling hands. When she sees the balance, her eyes go wide. $2,400,000, I read aloud. In that account alone, I have 8 other similar accounts. Nathan looks over Claire's shoulder. Mom, this must be a mistake. Where? From my stores, I say simply. From the 13 stores I've been managing for the last 15 years. From Galloway Enterprises, which is actually me. Claire drops the document. That's impossible. I take out another document. This is the deed to this house. As you can see, it's registered in my name. I bought it 6 years ago, in cash. Then, another document. This is the ownership registration for the car Nathan drives, also in my name. And one more. This is the documentation for the investment account that has been funding your lifestyle for the last 5 years. And Nathan sits down heavily in a chair. I don't understand. If you have so much money, why do you live like a housekeeper? I finish for him. Because you treated me like a housekeeper. Because you preferred to believe I was a poor, dependent old woman, instead of wondering where the money that allowed you to live like millionaires was really coming from. Claire has regained some of her composure. Rose, if this is true, then I don't understand why you were considering Sunshine Meadows. I wasn't considering it, I say. I was investigating your plan to rob me. I take out the recorder and put it on the table. This conversation is being recorded. Just like all our conversations for the last 3 days, I have complete evidence of your attempted fraud. Claire stands up so abruptly, her chair falls over backward. This is ridiculous. Nathan, tell your mother she's delusional. But Nathan says nothing. He's staring at the documents with an expression of complete shock. Finally, he looks up at me. Mom, why did you never tell me? Because you never asked. I reply, because for 5 years, you treated me as if I were invisible, because you allowed your wife to humiliate me, to push me aside, to make me feel like a burden. Tears begin to run down Nathan's cheeks. I didn't know. I thought you just had a small pension. If I had known... What? I ask. Would you have treated me better? Your love for your mother depended on how much money she had. Claire interrupts our conversation. Nathan, this changes nothing. The papers she found could be fake. Old people often get confused about their finances. I turn to her with a cold smile. Old people get confused. Claire, like your first husband got confused before he died. Her face turns completely pale. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating that you've done this before. I'm stating that you are a specialist in taking control of the finances of vulnerable family members. I take another document from my folder. This is the complete file from your first marriage. Very interesting reading. Claire looks at the document as if it were a venomous snake. You have no right to investigate my private life. I have every right in the world to investigate someone who is trying to scam me out of $20 million. Nathan raises his head sharply. $20 million, $20 million, I confirm. That is my total net worth. That is what your wife was planning to steal with the help of a fraudulent power of attorney. Claire walks towards the door. I'm not going to stand here and listen to these ridiculous accusations. No, I say, stopping her with my voice. You're not going anywhere, because this document you're holding in your hand isn't just a power of attorney. It's a signed confession of attempted fraud, and this recorded conversation is admissible evidence in court. She stops at the door, her hand on the frame. You can't prove anything. I can prove everything, I say. And I'm going to. David Thompson already has copies of all the evidence. In 1 hour, the police will be here with arrest warrants. Claire turns to Nathan. Nathan, you have to help me. We're a family. She's trying to destroy our marriage. Nathan looks at her as if she's a stranger. Did you know my mother had all this money? Claire doesn't answer immediately, and that pause is answer enough. You knew, Nathan says, standing up slowly. You knew, and you didn't tell me anything. You planned this without telling me who my mother really was. I did it for us, Claire says desperately. For our future. For the children. You did it for you, Nathan says. And for the first time in years, I hear strength in his voice. You used my love for you to make me an accomplice in robbing my own mother. He turns to me, tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know about any of this. You have to believe me. I look at him for a long moment. My son, the man I raised with so much sacrifice, the man who allowed his wife to treat me like dirt for 5 years. Did he really not know anything, or did he just not want to know Nathan? I say finally, in 1 hour, we're going to find out exactly what you knew and what you didn't know, because the police are going to review every transaction, every deposit, every expense you've made in the last 5 years. His face falls, because we both know that when they check his finances, they're going to find he's been living far beyond his means, and he's going to have to explain where that extra money came from. Claire makes one last desperate attempt. Rose, we can fix this. We can forget everything that happened. You're part of the family. No, I say, with a calm that surprises even me. I am no longer part of this family. You both took care of that a long time ago. At that moment, the doorbell rings. Claire and Nathan look at each other in panic. That must be the police, I say, looking at my watch. They arrived earlier than I expected. I open the door and find 2 detectives in dark suits, accompanied by a uniformed officer. David Thompson is behind them, with a serious but satisfied expression. Mrs. Anderson, says the detective, a middle-aged woman with short hair and penetrating eyes. I'm Detective Sarah Peterson. We have warrants for financial fraud and conspiracy. Claire appears in the hallway, her face completely pale. This is a misunderstanding, she says in a trembling voice. I'm a lawyer. I know my rights. Claire Anderson, says Detective Peterson. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. While they read her rights, Claire looks at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. Rose, please, think of the children. Think of Dylan and Hannah. What's going to happen to them? It's her last attempt at manipulation, using the children I once loved as if they were my own grandchildren. But it doesn't work anymore. The children, I say firmly, are going to be better off without a mother who steals from the elderly. Nathan watches in shock as they handcuff Claire. As she passes him, she whispers desperately, Nathan, you have to help me. You have to get me a lawyer. You have to... No, Nathan says, pulling away from her. I can't help you. Not after what you've done. The second detective approaches Nathan. Mr. Anderson, we also need you to come with us for questioning. There are some discrepancies in your finances that we need to clear up. Is he under arrest? I ask. Not yet, Detective Peterson replies, but we need to determine his level of involvement in the fraud scheme. Nathan looks at me with pleading eyes. Mom, I didn't know anything about the stolen money. You have to believe me. What I believe, I say softly, doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what the detectives can prove. As they take Claire and Nathan away, David stays with me in the house that, suddenly, feels huge and empty. How do you feel? He asks me. Free, I reply without hesitation. For the first time in years, I feel free. Over the next few days, the story explodes in all the local media. Lawyer arrested for defrauding millionaire mother-in-law. 70-year-old businesswoman exposes family fraud scheme. The nanny who turned out to be the boss. The images of Claire being arrested appear on every news channel. Her law firm issues a statement distancing themselves from her. Several of her former clients begin to review their cases, suspecting they might also have been victims of fraud. Nathan is released after 3 days of questioning, but with pending charges for money laundering. The detectives determined that, although he didn't know the details of Claire's plan, he did know he was living far beyond his means and had asked minimal questions about the origin of the extra money. The house is officially empty except for me. Dylan and Hannah, the children I once considered my grandchildren, are sent to live with their maternal grandparents. Dylan, the older one, comes to say goodbye before he leaves. Grandma Rose, he says to me, using the name he had called me for years. I'm so sorry for what my mom did. I hug him tightly. You don't have to apologize for your mother's mistakes. Dylan, you're a good boy. Will I ever get to visit you? He asks with tears in his eyes. When you're 18, I tell him. If you want to find me, David Thompson will know how to contact me. Hannah is younger and doesn't fully understand what's happening. She only knows that her mother is in trouble and that she has to go live with other relatives. When she says goodbye to me, she whispers, "Will you still be my grandma?" "Always," I answer, although we both know that everything has changed forever. 2 weeks after the arrest, I receive a call from Nathan from the county jail, where he is awaiting his bail hearing. "Mom," he says, and his voice sounds broken, Can you come see me?" The trip to the jail is surreal. I pass through multiple security checks. I walk down cold hallways with concrete floors, until I reach a small visiting room where my son waits for me on the other side of a thick glass. He looks terrible. He's lost weight. He has deep dark circles under his eyes. His hair is disheveled. When he sees me, he immediately starts to cry. "Mom, forgive me." And he says through this phone that connects our conversations, "I ruined everything. I ruined our family. I ruined my life. I ruined my children's lives." "Yes," I say simply. "Yes, you did." Is there any way?" he begins, but I interrupt him. "Any way for what?" "Nathan, for me to drop the charges, for me to pretend none of this happened, for me to go back to being the invisible old woman who cooked and cleaned while you planned to rob me." "No," he says, lowering his head. "I guess not. For 5 years, I continue, you treated me as if I were a favor you were keeping in your house. For 5 years, you allowed your wife to humiliate me, to push me aside, to make me feel as if I were less than nothing. And now you want forgiveness. I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he says. "But yeah, you're my mother, the only real family I have." "Your mother?" I say. "Died the day you decided that Claire was more important than the woman who raised you. The woman sitting here with you is Rose Anderson, businesswoman, owner of a fortune she built with her own hands. And that woman owes you nothing." Nathan sobs in silence for several minutes. Finally, he looks up. "What's going to happen to me?" "I don't know," I answer honestly. "That depends on the judge, the jury, on how much responsibility you're willing to accept for your actions. And Claire is going to prison for a long time. Elder fraud is a federal crime, and when they investigate her first marriage more deeply, They'll probably find more charges. We stay silent for a few moments. Then, Nathan asks the question I've been waiting for. Are you going to change your will? I already changed it, I say. The day after you were arrested. His face falls. Everything, all of it. My entire fortune will be donated to charitable organizations that protect seniors from financial abuse. Ironically, you and Claire are going to help protect other people like me from other people like you. And the stores, they will become a foundation. They'll generate jobs, pay fair wages, and the profits will go to charitable causes. Nathan nods slowly. I guess it's what I deserve. It's not about what you deserve, I say, getting up to leave. It's about doing something good with the money you tried to steal. Is this the last time we'll see each other? He asks as I head for the door. I stop and look at him one last time. I don't know. Nathan, that depends on who you decide to be when you get out of here. If you decide to be the man I raised, the man who once thanked me for all my sacrifices, maybe we can talk. But if you're still the man who allowed his wife to humiliate his mother, then yes, then this is the last time. I walk out of the jail without looking back. In the parking lot, David is waiting for me by his car. How do you feel? He asks me. Like I've closed a chapter. I answer, and I'm ready to start the next one. That night, in the house that is now truly mine, I pack the last few things I want to keep. Tomorrow, I will start my new life, a life where no one treats me as invisible, where no one underestimates my intelligence, where no one takes my love for granted, a life where I can finally be who I really am, Rose Anderson, the woman who built an empire and is now ready to build a new future. 6 months later, I am sitting on the terrace of my new home in Geneva, Switzerland, looking at the lake stretching out like a mirror under the afternoon sun. It's a small but elegant house, with large windows that let in all the light I had lost during those years of living in the shadows. Here, no one knows me as the humiliated housekeeper. Here, I am simply Rose Anderson, a 70-year-old woman who decided to start a new life. The legal process ended 2 months ago. Claire was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for elder fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. During the trial, other similar cases came to light, including the details of the theft from her first husband. Nathan received a sentence of 3 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. The judge considered that, although he had been negligent in not questioning the origin of the money, he had not directly participated in the fraud scheme. I haven't spoken to him since that visit in jail. David Thompson keeps me informed of his progress. He's working a modest job, living in a small apartment, trying to rebuild his relationship with Dylan and Hannah when they allow him to visit them on weekends. The children are doing well, David tells me. They're in therapy, getting good grades, and little by little, they're processing everything that happened. This morning I received a letter from Dylan, the grandson of my heart. He's 17 now, about to graduate from high school. He wrote to tell me about his plans to study engineering, about how he's been helping Hannah with her homework, about how he sometimes thinks about the days when I used to take care of them after school. Grandma Rose, he wrote at the end, when I turn 18, I'd like to visit you, if you want to see me. Of course I want to see him. The children were never to blame for their parents' mistakes. There will always be a place in my life for them, if they want to have me in theirs. My stores now operate under the Anderson Foundation for the Protection of Seniors. The employees received significant raises, better benefits, and profit sharing. The profits are allocated to shelters for elderly victims of abuse, legal education programs, and financial assistance for seniors who have been scammed by their families. It's ironic, but satisfying, that the money Claire tried to steal now protects other people like me. I have an important appointment this afternoon. I've been working with a Swiss publisher to write a book about my experience. The Invisible Woman: How I Reclaimed My Power After 70 will be published in Spanish, English, and French next year. I'm not writing the book for revenge or for money. I'm writing it because I know there are thousands of older women in similar situations. Women who have been relegated to the shadows by families who see them as burdens instead of as human beings with intrinsic value. The book includes chapters on how to protect yourself legally, how to recognize the signs of financial family abuse, and how to reclaim your personal power regardless of age. But more than a self-help manual, it's a testament that it's never too late to decide who you want to be. During these months in Switzerland, I've rediscovered parts of myself that I had forgotten existed. I take French classes 3 times a week. I'm learning to ski, something I never thought I'd do at 70. I've made friends in the neighborhood book club, intelligent, strong women who see me exactly as I am, without the baggage of a complicated family history. Some nights, when the lake is especially calm and the mountains are perfectly reflected in the water, I think about the woman I was a year ago. The woman who prepared breakfast for people who treated her as invisible, who carried shopping bags while being publicly humiliated, who accepted crumbs of affection from her own family. That woman feels like a stranger now, like someone I knew a long time ago, but am no longer. I don't feel bitterness towards Nathan. I've come to understand that the pain I feel isn't really for the money they tried to steal, but for the years of wasted love, for the lost opportunities to have a real relationship with my son, for all the time I spent being someone I wasn't, to please people who never truly valued me. But I've also come to understand something more important, that real freedom doesn't come from others treating us well, but from treating ourselves well. For years, I allowed my family's opinion to define my worth. Now I know that my worth exists regardless of what others think or feel about me. This week, I will begin giving lectures at European universities about financial abuse of seniors. Next month, an international television network will film a documentary about my story. I'm not seeking fame or recognition. I'm seeking to use my experience to raise awareness about a problem that affects millions of older people around the world. David Thompson visited me last month. He brought documents about a new foundation we are establishing in Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina. Free legal resource centers for seniors. Rose, he told me as we walked by the lake, you are creating a legacy much more important than any monetary inheritance you would have left. He's right. The money Nathan would have inherited is now protecting hundreds of families from similar situations. The stores Claire wanted to control now employ people who need work and support causes that truly matter. My pain has transformed into purpose, my victimization into empowerment. Today is my 71st birthday. Tonight I'm going to dinner at my favorite restaurant by the lake, a small place where the chef knows me by name and always has my favorite table by the window ready. Afterward, I'll return home, pour myself a glass of Swiss wine, and read the letters that have arrived from women all over the world who have seen my story in the news. Women who write to tell me their own stories of family abuse, of children who have abandoned them, of daughters-in-law who treat them badly, of families who see them as financial burdens. Women who thank me for showing them that it's never too late to reclaim your life, to decide who deserves to be in it, to choose dignity over family convenience. A letter that arrived yesterday particularly moved me. It was from a 68-year-old woman in Argentina who had seen my interview on television. Mrs. Anderson, she wrote, "Thank you for teaching me that I can be invisible by choice, not by imposition. Thank you for reminding me that my age is wisdom, not weakness. Thank you for showing me that self-love is not selfishness. It is survival." As the sun sets over the lake, I reflect on the extraordinary year I've had. I lost a family that never truly valued me, but I found a version of myself that had been hidden for far too long. I lost the comfort of being cared for by others, but I gained the freedom of caring for myself. If I could talk to the woman I was a year ago, I would tell her that the fear of being alone is much worse than the reality of being alone. I would tell her that being respected by strangers is infinitely better than being tolerated by family. I would tell her that it's never too late to write a new chapter of your story. Tomorrow, I'll take the train to Paris for a conference on seniors' rights. Next week, I'll fly to Barcelona for a book signing. The following month, I'll start a speaking tour in Latin America. At 71, I have a fuller and more exciting schedule than when I was 30. But tonight, I'm just going to sit on my terrace, watch the stars reflecting on the lake, and celebrate something I haven't felt in years: the deep satisfaction of being exactly who I want to be, of living exactly the life I want to live. To all the women who are reading this, to all those who feel invisible in their own families, to all those who have allowed others to define their value, your life belongs to you. Your dignity is not for sale. Your self-worth is non-negotiable. It's never too late to shine. It's never too late to be free. It's never too late to be who you really are.